Hi, I'm Kevin Orman, the Master of Self-Leadership. Welcome to Leadership U. Today we're going to be talking about how do you spot a good leader? How do you pick one out? That's a particularly important thing for us in this year because it's an election year. So we're going to talk about how to do that. Welcome to Leadership U, where it really is all about you. A couple of days ago, I was in New York City, and I was there for a taping of the Ask Bon show, and that information, that taping, and that sort of thing will come out later. I'll be able to share that with you probably in a month or so when that actually hits. But as I was in New York City, of course, it's election season, and we talk about electing a leader. And the reality is, all five candidates are there. New York is happening right now, and so all five candidates are there. There's not a leader in the bunch. There is not a good leader in the bunch. At best, what we've got there is maybe a mediocre to good manager at best among the five. And we could argue about who is what and whatever, but the reality is simply this. There isn't a good leader in the bunch, not a one of the five major candidates. So first of all, what do we do about that? And that's something that I'll talk about actually a little bit later, because right now it's time for backstory. Of course, I was in New York City for a taping. And I'm excited about that and where that'll lead. But beyond that, I have some very interesting backstory issues about the country and the things that we have. See, back during the Vietnam War, I was getting drafted. I had to go and do something in the military, whether I wanted to or not. I won the draft lottery. It's the only lottery I've ever won in my life. And got me an all-expense paid trip into the military. Now that taught me a couple of things. First of all, taught me to never play the lottery again, and I never have. But beyond that, it also, that experience of being in the military, of raising my right hand and swearing allegiance to the Constitution of the United States, that oath that I took is very important to me because of what I experienced being in the military. I was in the Air Force for 4.5 years during that time. And as a result of that, I developed some very strong feelings about that. As I have learned more about leadership over the years, those feelings have, of course, been deepened with time. And my concerns about what we see have been deepened, but more importantly than that, my understanding has, because you see, it always starts with self-leadership. So if we take a look at people and we say, okay, is this the kind of person I want to be my leader? Now, this would be true in a business, this would be true in a marriage, it would be true anywhere, not just in the political season, because the principles are the same. And what we're looking for in a leader is a number of characteristics. Number one is, are they able to lead themselves effectively? Are they developing themselves? Are they humble and teachable? Are they willing to learn from people? Are they willing to treat people with respect? Are they willing to own up to making mistakes and saying, hey, you know what? I messed up here. I did this wrong or I did that wrong. Are they willing to do those kinds of things? Are they willing to really put the good of the organization ahead of their own self-interest? And the reality is, of the five candidates there's not a one that fits that bill. And that's a critical thing for us to understand. Of course, where does that leave us? Well, one of those five is going to be the president this year. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. But this is also going to be applicable at other levels. So Senate races, House Representative races, state elections, local elections, all those things are happening this year. And as we look at these people that are running for office, we need to take a look and say, well, why is the fact that these are the people that are running instead of somebody who's a true leader? It's a pretty good question. And but probably a better question is, rather than dissect this, say, how do we fix it? Because I think that's the better question. What do we do? And one of the things to understand is that leaders work long term rather than short term. Unfortunately, we have elections for Congress and such every 2 years, typically municipal elections and other elections every year. So all of these people that are candidates are all motivated short term. Even 4 years is a relatively short term period, even 6 years for a senator. That's relatively short term. And so how do we do this? Well, what we need to do is take a look at long term. Now, this would be true again for a marriage, for example. I've been married almost 38 years now, but this is my second marriage. The first one didn't last very long, 6.5 years. My wife, her first marriage lasted 8.5, I think, or something like that, but we've been married now almost 38 years. Now, why is that? Well, we did a better job of picking the candidate, if you will, the second time around. That's the first thing. The second thing we did was we were humble enough to develop ourselves and to grow ourselves, because the person I was nearly 38 years ago attracted the person she was nearly 38 years ago. But the person she is today would not be interested in that person that I was. And the reverse would also be true. So we've had to grow and learn and accept things about ourselves that needed to be changed, and said, you know what? I need to do this better. I need to do that better. And she's had to do the same thing, of course. And so basically that's what we do. That's the lesson here, is first and foremost, it begins with self-leadership. We have to continue to develop ourselves every single day. Now, I don't see that happening with any of the 5 people that are in the major race here. I don't see that happening with a lot of other people. So what we have to do is we have to say, okay, 4 years from now, what are we going to do today and start doing today to make it so that 4 years from now, we have a leader there to choose from? Or maybe multiple leaders to choose from. That'd be even better. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to choose, instead of the lesser of 5 evils, wouldn't it be nice to choose the best of 5 goods? That's what I would like to see happen. And it can be done if we start today. I mean, we have technologies today that allow the spread of information instantaneously. That did not exist as the party systems and such that we have today that have produced a lot of the problems that we have today. We did not have those kinds of enabling technologies available that allowed things to proliferate so rapidly in terms of ideas and people. They did not allow, I mean, who knows, maybe we need to start a party, the leadership party or something. I don't know. I'm not recommending that necessarily, and I'm certainly not putting my hat in the ring to be president. That's not my idea at all. But the idea is we need to find people that exhibit these qualities and promote them. And we need to start doing that now, because it takes time to build these kinds of things. As I mentioned, leadership is a long-term thing. It's a lifestyle. And we have to have that lifestyle in place. If we don't have the lifestyle in place and continue to develop ourselves, we top out and we stagnate. And the reality is with good leadership, you don't have to top out. There's no limit to how far you can go. And so that's the key. But the minute you don't, the minute you forget about what got you there, that's the problem. So here's what happened. For example, Jim Collins wrote his book, Good to Great. A lot of people have quoted that over the years. Here's the reality. Over 85% of those companies that were touted as these wonderful companies have tanked since the book came out. Why? The reason they tanked was they forgot and stopped doing what got them there. Leadership got them there. They got rid of the leaders either through, who knows, some of them passed away. There are other reasons that they were gone, but they got rid of the leaders. The leaders weren't there anymore. The people with management skills took over, and there was no leadership. And as a result, because you can't, see, remember the 3-legged stool? With only technical skills, you can only grow this big. With you add management skills, you can grow to this place, but you're still capped. With leadership skills, there's no cap, and you can continue to grow. Well, they dumped this part, so they put the cap back on, and so they tanked. And they stopped growing, and that's what happened. Unfortunately, that's what's happening even in our country. And it breaks my heart as a person who swore an oath to the Constitution to see that. Because the reality is that what got us here is the thing that will continue to help us to grow. The companies that figure that out are a model that shows us that that continues to happen. The companies that don't figure that out don't grow. In fact, typically they shrink or even go away. Many of those companies aren't even in business anymore. So that's the idea. And that's what I want you to understand. So today's lesson is, number one, look for the leaders. Number two, make sure that you become a leader, because if in reality, what we need, and our country was built on this idea that everybody was a leader. Everybody had the opportunity to be a leader. And obviously, historically, we went through some things with slavery and racial issues and stuff. But once that got sorted out, as far as the Civil War and as far as the amendments to the Constitution and things like that, then it was just a matter of building over the long term so that we have the position we're in now, where everybody has the opportunity to become a leader, regardless of religion, race, whatever. And everybody has that opportunity to grow their leadership. It is up to you individually to do that. It's up to me individually to grow mine. And those are the kinds of people that we want to see, those that will foster those ideas, that will take us and say, you know what, let's not forget who brought us to the dance. Let's go home with who brought us to the dance. And in this case, it's those principles that we need to understand about leadership. Everybody needs to be a leader. We all need to develop this leadership. And as we do that, what will happen is through the process of that long term, as we get more and more people and better and better and better at it, a lot of these problems that seem so pressing and seems like such an issue will start to vaporize and vanish away. And that's what I've seen happen in my life again and again and again and again. I've seen it happen with companies I've consulted with again and again and again. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. So I know that this is how it works, and that's today's lesson. So let's just remember that we need to develop our own leadership. We need to go to the next level, and we need to understand what we need to do for, in this case, the next election cycle. And I'm Kevin Ormond, and that's been the tip and such from Leadership U today, and I'll see you on the flip side. Subscribe here to Leadership U to make sure you get all the videos. Also, you can watch more videos from here, including two that I've shown, my speaker reel, and also one I call Leadership Elephants in You. Also from here, you can go ahead and then get to my website to find out more about my speaking, books, and other things. Have a great day. See you on the flip side.